Hey guys, so today we are going to talk about a few tips that I can give you to maintain a front-end project long term. So let's get into it. Now the reason why this is spurred on, or the whole motivation behind this video, is basically that today I had the shock of my life. Well, not of my life, but at least my life at my current company, and in fact any small, like the two small sized startups that I've been working at during the course of my very so far short career. Hopefully it's going to be a long one. Anywho, so my boss comes to me today and he says, Frederick, we have a problem with our load times. And I kind of go, yeah, I know. I know it's not great. And he goes, I think we have to deal with this. I think we have to do something about this. And I very cautiously become intrigued, and I go, oh, what would you like to do? And he says, well, I've been looking into maybe we could have some type of way of limiting the amount of stuff that we add to our JavaScript. And then he links me a repository to a tool called Size Limit, which I know of. And I go, you're right. This could be very useful for us. Do you want me to fix it? And he goes, yeah, that would be great. Could you just have a look at putting this into our build pipeline so that maybe if we break some magical threshold, we simply fail the build, and then maybe we can have that as a process here at the company, that if we do something like that, if we actually add more and more stuff, we will simply fail the build, and then we will have a meeting and we will talk about it and see if we can find a way to avoid adding more dependencies, because it's getting a little bit slow. I didn't know what to say, and I just, yeah, of course I'll do that. Guys, I think my boss may be front-end curious. I mean, he's a back-end Scala guy, hardcore back-end Scala guy, but I think he's front-end curious. I was so happy. Actually, that's what I did today. I took 2 hours to just kind of put everything together, get the benchmark so I knew what the thresholds were at this moment in time, bump that number by 50 kilobytes or something like that, and just pushed it. So tomorrow, it's in code review today, so I'll introduce everybody to this, because now, and this is something I've told you a few times before, now it's not my idea. I have buy-in from the boss. And if I have buy-in from the boss, that means that I can get the buy-in from everybody else. If you are a single developer trying to push this idea, you're going to have to push pretty hard. It's much easier for you to get something moving in a company if you have a buy-in from the people at the top. So now we can actually start taking asset size more seriously, and that makes me endlessly happy. So that's tip number one, guys. If you are a front-end developer or a specialist or something like that, and because usually the issue is that you have too much stuff in your JavaScript, that it's very simple. Being able to add a threshold that fails your build pipeline for when you want to deploy code or save code to your version control, to have something like that in place is the best way for you to control your assets. Because the problem is that if you are a front-end developer, usually you are fairly alone, and you will find that it's very tricky for you to, you can't keep tabs on everybody in a big company. So the only way for you to kind of make sure that people are not breaking the good conventions that you most likely are promoting is to have an automated check, something that does that for you. To me, it's the same thing as having something like ESLint, for example, having a linting strategy for keeping code consistency. It's if you can automate these checks and the quality controls, you should at every step of the way, like as much as humanly possible. Because if you have a bunch of rules for how you should write your code, if you can have a ESLint rule that tells everybody who's working in the front-end code that, hey, you should think about these and these and these things and you need to fix that, that's much easier for you and less time-consuming than if you have to do it in code reviews, because then you're just going to spend your time doing code reviews. So that's number one. having an automated system that fails your build if the size of the bundles like skyrockets basically, or gets too big. Second thing you can do, which I was telling my boss about as well, it's not right for us right now, and I understand that because it's the company isn't big enough to kind of warrant test-driven development in the front-end code just yet. It might get there someday. It was absolutely the case at Ticketmaster. And that's what we did as well. I did the same. I did what I'm going to tell you. So I did a very similar thing. At the time we weren't using Jest, but basically Mocha with the threshold. So Jest can do this as well, which is my personal favorite testing framework. So what you can do is that you can set a threshold for line coverage in your, you can use Istanbul, for example. And what that does is basically that whenever you try to save code or commit it to the master branch, you simply run a job that checks if you have enough line coverage. Now, line coverage is not an indication of quality tests, but it's a really good reminder to make sure that people are writing tests for their front-end code, if that's something that you think is important. And at a really large scale, it is absolutely important. So the third one is to have a sit down with your designers. Not just your designers, you can sit down with everybody basically and have this talk, like just to have a dialogue about how you can come to an agreement as to how to be consistent. Now what I will do is that I will tell my designers that I would like to work in a style guide driven fashion, and what we will do then is that I will sit down and I will say, can you create like just a sheet, like an artboard with all the different sizes for the different devices that we support. I want to have like what are the font sizes, the letter spacing, line heights, like all of these things that you know that you are repeating over and over and over in your design projects. And when you have these things on paper, then you and I will sit down and we will name these things. We will give them semantic names, and we will decide on which breakpoint, basically on what device size we are going to use each. And then when that's all done, guys, you put that in some type of SAS file or CSS file, and you declare variables with these names. And then you consistently use these variables in your CSS, which makes it very consistent, makes it very easy for you to just add consistent styles over and over, and you don't get so much stuff back in like design when the designers look at your work. Doing that together with something like BEM and having a good CSS class naming convention. BEM is my personal favorite, but there are others out there. Like these 3 tips are going to make a massive difference in your front-end projects, trust me. So if you can get this into your project, you should, because it's going to make your life a lot easier. Have a great day.